Deb here. Today we are going to work on my hardwood floors. A little history on them. Given the age of the house, I was pretty sure there were hardwood floors underneath. So when I was redoing the room, which was hideous, it was like a serious man cave. It was probably even too dark for most men. I had 3 walls that were very dark walnut barnwood paneling. And then 1 wall that had paper that was literally peeling off the wall at corners. And I thought, oh, that's going to be a piece of cake. Yeah, 3 days later, I got that wallpaper off. The walls I had to double primer with Kills and then paint. And the ceiling was smoke covered and I had painted 3 times. It took me a week and a half to do this room. But the driving force that kept my momentum going was that I was dying to see if there were hardwood floors under the carpet. And the carpet wasn't hideous. It probably was only about 10 years old. But I don't like carpet. I like hardwood floors, which is why I buy old houses. I have animals. It holds a lot of dirt. It's just gross. So before, or in the middle of my painting, I did peel up a corner of the room just to see if there were hardwood floors on it, because I'm not the most patient person in the world. And yes, there were floors underneath it. I almost screamed with joy. And they looked beautiful. And I thought, oh my gosh, these floors look marvelous. Why would they have covered them with carpet? But a corner of the room doesn't hit your high traffic. And so I really didn't know what the rest of the floor looked like until the room was finished. So when the moment of truth came and I pulled the carpet up, which that's not a lot of fun to do, they were absolutely in amazing shape for an 85-year-old house. They were very dry, very dull looking. There is a center square in the room where there's like a demarcation line, and they probably had area rugs down prior to putting the carpet down. There's a couple patches on the far side of the room where they probably had an animal that urinated multiple times and it sucked through the pad and made kind of a dark spot. I was able to lighten them up a little bit. You know, short of refinishing the floor, which would be stripping it and sanding it, you know, the floors are in good enough shape that I don't need to go to that full process. So I started researching different cleaners and polishes for hardwood floors. And the product that I kept coming across over and over again was called Rejuvenate. And so initially, after I pulled the carpet up, I used Rejuvenate professional wood floor cleaner, and you just spray it on the floor and then you mop it up. Works really easy, worked really good. So then I wanted to put some gloss to the floor, but I didn't want anything like high gloss. I have pets, you know, they run through the house, they run outside in the mud, they run in. And high gloss, you know, is going to show your dust and it's just going to look dirtier faster. And you know, anything that keeps me from having to clean every day is basically good for me. So I started looking at their different wood floor restores, and they did have a high gloss, but I opted for the wood floor restore that is a satin matte finish. It's 4.4 stars. Woohoo! And basically what you do is you put it down in an S pattern in 5x5 sections, farthest part of your room, and you kind of work yourself out of the room. Goes on really easy. They have their own mop system, which I purchased, and they had 2 different types. They have this one here, and this one ran about $15. And then they have a second one that has a canister holder right here, and you buy the pre-filled canisters to put into it. I opted to go with just the $15 model because I've used the canister mops before, and they have a way of running out on you in the middle of your project. Anyway, I opted for the $15 one with the bottle that you spray on. I'm not terribly impressed with the mop. And I'll tell you why. Because the handle kept slipping on me, and I've only used this thing 2 or 3 times. So I had to put some electrical tape here so that the handle wouldn't keep pushing down on me. And then I also had to put some electrical tape here where the pole connects onto the head of the mop. It works, it's done the trick, but that's the only thing that's my only down mark about the mop system, is that I had to kind of jerry rig it a little bit so it wouldn't mess up on me. I'm also, before we get started with the floor, I'm going to give you a brief tour of the room, drop down some pictures of what the room looked like prior to the finished product, because I'm really excited about how it turned out. I did put a coat of the Rejuvenate down yesterday, and the areas that were really dry didn't seem to soak up much of the polish at first. The area at the far side of the room that goes into the dining room, it was a little shinier. And I don't really know why. I don't know if it's because the area rugs, and then the carpet on top of that kind of dried out that center spot. But I'm going to put a second coat down. And the directions on the Rejuvenate bottle do say that you can put 2 coats on. You put one on, then you wait an hour till it dries, and then you put the second one on. And if you don't like the finish, you have up to 48 hours to strip it. And I have no idea how you strip it. So we're going to do the floor, wait an hour, and then I'll come back and give you a close-up shot of the floors so that you can see the sheen. I'm also going to do some video footage of the dining room because I have not done that room yet, and the floors look like what this did when I first pulled it up. Very dry, no shine to it. And short of, redoing the whole floor, which would be stripping it, sanding it, staining it, polishing it, for the little imperfections that are in the floor for an 85-year-old house. And for me, that's kind of the history of the house. If it's not huge, then, I'm okay with some Mars in it. I mean, I'm not perfect. Why does my floor have to be perfect? Alrighty. So this is the view of the living room from standing in the dining room. Obviously, that's the front door straight ahead. You can see that the floor is just beautiful, and there is a little bit of a shine to it from my first coat yesterday. And imagine these 3 outside walls were the dark man cave paneling, and then this wall that is above me right now in the dining room was where the wallpaper is. So anyway, I'll just give you a brief tour. So there's the armoire that I pulled up the carpet in the corner to see how well it looked. There's one of the chandeliers that I blinged out, and you'll be amazed at that. And I'm going to show you a project. I'll put a video together on how to do those. Still got to paint my front door. It's just got primer on it right now. Really hate that door. It kind of reminds me of the old dungeon type doors. But because I like to recycle things, there's nothing wrong with the door beyond the fact that I don't really care for it. So therefore it's staying, and I'm just painting it. It was a really dark walnut color too, so it really looked like a dungeon door then. You'll have to excuse my dining room because I've just moved the coffee table and the different things in here. There's another one of the chandeliers. Here's my ceiling fan. And there's a view of my dining room with the furniture that belongs out here. So anyway, I'm going to give you a little close-up of the floor. As you can see, as we get over here, some of the dark shadows that I was talking about, I think there was an area rug around that area. And from that area up to the dining room, the floor is a little shinier. You can see the reflection in it. And then if you come over here, obviously there's a reflection here. The reflection's not quite as much. There's not as much shine. This area of the floor was very dry, the center. And like I said, they probably had area rugs here before, and then they probably threw carpet over it. So, there's a shine, but not quite what I wanted. So that's the tour, the nickel tour. I'm going to get ready to do the floor. Okay, so now before I get the whole floor done, I'm gonna kind of visualize to see if there's any splatters or any little puddles that I missed of the cleaner, and kind of smooth out, even out, so you get the shine consistent across the floor. And this is about where I'm going to stop, because this is where the floor took the shine better yesterday, and I want to try and match up the shine on the front part. And I'm kind of just feathering out the edge on this shiny part, which means there's a bare amount of product left on the mop head, so I'm just lightly dragging it over the shinier part so it kind of blends in nice and just doesn't have another abrupt line. And the reason I'm kind of bending over to do this slow is because this mop head tends to want to flip on me. And so if I'm low and keep pressure on it down lower, then it tends to stay flat, so I'm going to get a more even finish. So there's another flaw I just found with this little Rejuvenate mop head. See a little puddle up here that I missed. And I noticed when I put the S of the product on the floor and then I mop it in, sometimes when I look at an angle to see if I've got everything covered or if I've got any little puddles anywhere, I'll also see this really fine, like little, not little drops, but almost like it's been sprayed, like a mist, like you missed something, where little particles, no puddles, you're not coming on the floor. Have kind of misted out from me mopping and from putting the product on the floor. So those are some of those areas that I'm going back over to kind of work them in and smooth them into the surface. I have a cat who's trying to come in here. Okay, so again, I'm going to get down and try to get any areas that I can see. Yeah, out. Get. And yes, I have been called anal before. Okay. Let's give that an hour to dry. We'll do some more video of it. I'll put everything in the link below, the products that I've used, where you can purchase them, how much they cost, instructions on how to apply it, and I'll be back. As you can see by the sheen on the floor from the lights and the windows, there is definitely more sheen on that second coat. I'm loving it. It turns out beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Can you imagine covering this with carpet? It's just amazing. This is my dining room floor, which I have done nothing to yet. You can see this is exactly what the living room looked like prior to doing any of the coats of the Rejuvenate. So there is a huge difference. Well, we're right back where we started. In my living room. Got my table back, some of my other stuff back in the room. Thank you for joining me today. So this has been a fun project. I'm totally excited. Rejuvenate products, they are worth the money you pay for them. They do the job, and they do amazing results. And this in itself giving you the tour of my living room, and I'll put the drop down pictures of what it looked like beforehand, the floor. This is why I do what I do, because you can hire someone to come in and do this. It's very expensive. You're going to pay a buttload of money. But if you're not a wealthy person, or you're single like myself and have a limited income, just your income, and you have two hands, and you have a thought process, and aren't afraid to get your hands dirty and do some hard work, you can do this. And let me tell you, there is such a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment in that I did this. And there's nothing better than that. So I thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button so that you can come back and see future videos. I've got several more planned and several that I'm working on editing at the moment. Pass this on to your friends. Put comments below for me. Good, bad, and the ugly. Suggestions of things you'd like to see. I love to hear from people, and I will comment back to you. So thank you for joining me.